Have you ever found yourself constantly giving advice, offering help, or jumping in to solve someone else's problems, even when they didn't ask for it? Do you often feel drawn to people who seem broken, lost, or in need of rescue? If so, you might be what's often referred to as a fixer. At first glance, being a fixer might seem like a noble role. After all, what could be wrong with wanting to help others? Society praises kindness, selflessness, and compassion. We are taught to care, to lend a hand, to offer our shoulder when someone is down. And you might have learned, somewhere along the way, that love means helping people become the best version of themselves, even if it means carrying their burdens for them. But here's the hard truth. Not everyone wants to be fixed. Not everyone is ready to change. And sometimes, in our well-meaning efforts to help others, we cross invisible lines. We take on emotional loads that aren't ours to carry. We interfere in journeys that aren't ours to control. And in doing so, we slowly lose ourselves. Being a fixer often comes from a deep place. Maybe you grew up in a chaotic home and learned to keep the peace by solving other people's problems. Maybe you've been told that your worth is tied to how useful or helpful you are. Or maybe you just have a big heart and feel everything too deeply. None of these are bad in themselves. But when the need to help becomes an unconscious pattern, when you're drawn again and again to people who drain you or hurt you, when you stay in relationships that run on hope rather than reality, it's time to pause and ask, why am I really doing this? The fixer's journey often leads to frustration, exhaustion, and even heartbreak. You give and give and give, and still feel like it's never enough. You start to believe that if you could just say the right words, or do the right thing, or love someone hard enough, they would change. And when they don't, you blame yourself. You wonder what more you could have done. And in the process, you forget that the only person you're truly responsible for is you. This is not about shutting your heart or becoming cold. It's about recognizing the difference between supporting and saving, between helping and overreaching. It's about learning to love others without trying to control their path. And most of all, it's about learning to love yourself enough to stop sacrificing your peace for someone else's chaos. So today, let's explore a difficult but necessary question. Are you a fixer? And if you are, what is it costing you? Understanding the nature of a fixer. Before we can ever begin to change, we have to understand not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it. And when it comes to being a fixer, the reasons often run deeper than we care to admit. So what does it mean to be a fixer? A fixer is someone who feels an overwhelming compulsion to help others, especially those who seem broken, troubled, or lost. Fixers often find themselves in relationships where they are constantly giving, constantly offering solutions, constantly investing energy in someone else's healing, growth, or stability. It sounds noble. It sounds loving. It even sounds selfless. But let's look a little closer. Fixers are often the ones who stay up at night worrying about someone else's problems. They're the first to jump in when a friend is in crisis, the ones who carry emotional weight for their partners, family members, or even co-workers. They offer advice even when it's not asked for. They feel anxious when someone they care about is making destructive choices, and they feel personally responsible to stop it, to change it, to fix it. And when the person doesn't change, the fixer doesn't give up. They double down. They try harder. They give more. This may sound like love, but often it's not. It's control, wrapped in kindness. It's fear, disguised as compassion. It's anxiety, wearing the mask of helpfulness. Many fixers don't even realize they are fixers. They just think they're being caring, loyal, supportive. But behind this behavior is usually something unresolved, something that started long before the current relationship, long before adulthood. Often, fixers come from childhoods where love had to be earned, where peace was kept by taking on the problems of others, where approval was given only when you were useful. Fixers learned early on, if I help you, maybe you won't leave. If I solve this, maybe I'll finally feel safe. If I give enough, maybe I'll be enough. It's not just a habit. It's a survival mechanism. And over time, that mechanism becomes a pattern. Fixers are drawn to people who need saving, those who are unstable, chaotic, emotionally unavailable, or self-destructive. In fact, many fixers don't feel needed unless the other person is in pain. That's when they feel important. That's when they feel seen. But this kind of dynamic isn't healthy for either person. The fixer believes they're helping, but in reality, they may be enabling. They may be keeping the other person from taking responsibility for their own life. And in doing so, they reinforce a toxic cycle where neither person truly grows. Fixers often mistake empathy for responsibility. Feeling someone's pain does not mean you are responsible for fixing it. Loving someone deeply does not give you the right or the power to change them. And yet, the fixer continues to try because they care, because they don't want to give up, because they've made someone else's healing their personal mission. But let's ask an honest question. What happens when the fixer always puts others first? They burn out. They feel resentful. They become emotionally exhausted. They lose sight of their own needs, goals, and well-being. They stay in relationships far past their expiration date. They try to heal others while neglecting their own wounds. The irony is, the fixer may end up more broken than the person they're trying to fix. And here's another hard truth. Sometimes, being a fixer is a form of avoidance. It's easier to focus on someone else's chaos than to face our own. It's easier to pour into someone else's healing than to sit with our own pain. It's easier to say, they need me, than to admit, I feel empty when I'm not helping someone. But love, real, mature, healthy love, is not about fixing. It's about accepting. It's about supporting without controlling. It's about respecting another person's autonomy and path, even when you don't agree with it, even when it breaks your heart. So if you're starting to recognize yourself in these words, if you've always been the one holding others together, sacrificing your peace for someone else's pain, it's time to pause, to reflect, to ask yourself a simple but profound question. Where did this pattern come from? Was it a parent you had to protect? A partner you couldn't save? A fear of being abandoned if you stopped being useful? A belief that love means suffering for someone else's happiness? Once you begin to understand the origin, you gain power. You gain clarity. You begin to realize that helping people is beautiful, but not at the expense of yourself. You begin to draw boundaries. You begin to heal not by fixing others, but by fixing the parts of yourself that thought you had to. Let me be clear. This is not an invitation to become selfish. It's an invitation to become whole. Helping others is still good. Being kind is still noble. But you are not responsible for saving people who don't want to be saved. You are not required to break yourself just to keep someone else together. And you are not obligated to stay in roles that drain you just because you're afraid of who you'll be without them. You are allowed to care without carrying. You are allowed to support without sacrificing. You are allowed to love without fixing. So take a deep breath. Look within. You don't need to prove your worth through someone else's healing. You are worthy simply because you exist. The dark side of being a fixer. At first, being a fixer feels like a gift. People come to you with their problems. They trust you. They lean on you. You feel valuable, even heroic. You feel like the emotional anchor for those around you. In a world full of chaos, you become the one who holds it all together. But over time, something shifts. Something breaks. Because there's a hidden cost to being the one who always shows up. The one who listens, advises, sacrifices, and rescues. And that cost often goes unnoticed, until it becomes too heavy to bear. Let's start with the most obvious consequence, emotional exhaustion. Fixers often live in a constant state of emotional overload. They absorb other people's feelings, anger, sadness, anxiety, and carry them like they're their own. Every time someone they care about spirals, it becomes their crisis. Every time someone stumbles, they feel personally responsible. This creates a never-ending emotional roller coaster. And the more people they try to fix, the more drained they become. And yet, they keep going. Why? Because they've built their identity around being needed. But here's the harsh reality. Being needed is not the same as being loved. This is one of the deepest wounds that fixers face. They often find themselves in one-sided relationships, where they give everything and receive little in return. They are the emotional caretakers, the therapists, the problem solvers, but no one seems to ask how they're doing. No one checks in. Because the fixer is strong, right? The fixer has it together. Except they don't. Not really. Fixers silently carry resentment. They feel invisible in their own relationships. They might smile on the outside, but inside, they're screaming, "Why won't anyone show up for me the way I show up for them?" This imbalance erodes their self-worth over time. They begin to believe that their only value lies in what they can do for others, not who they are. And when someone finally doesn't want their help, when someone walks away or refuses to change, they take it personally. They feel rejected, unworthy, unloved. But it goes deeper. Fixers often fall into relationships that are toxic or codependent. They are drawn to projects, people with addictions, emotional instability, or self-destructive behaviors. These relationships are not accidents. They are patterns. Because if you believe you must earn love by healing someone, then being with someone who's deeply broken gives you purpose. It makes you feel like you're fulfilling your role. But here's the trap. You can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. You can't love someone into healing if they are committed to their own destruction. And the more you try, the more they resist. The more you give, the more they take. And slowly, you disappear. Your needs go unmet. Your voice gets quieter. Your energy fades. Until one day, you look in the mirror and realize you've been so busy saving others, you forgot to save yourself. There's also a darker side many fixers don't want to admit: the illusion of control. Fixing others often gives you a sense of power. It makes you feel capable, competent, in charge. But the truth is, it's a form of emotional control. You may not realize it, but when you constantly try to help someone who hasn't asked for it, you are interfering with their autonomy. You're essentially saying, "I know what's best for you. Let me show you how to live." That may come from love, but it can also come from fear. Fear of letting go. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of being irrelevant if you're not useful. But people need to walk their own paths. They need to make mistakes. They need to learn through experience. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is step back, even if it hurts. Fixing can also breed resentment in the very people you're trying to help. Nobody likes to feel like a project. Nobody wants to be constantly told how they should change. What begins as kindness can quickly feel like judgment. What feels like help to you might feel like pressure to them. And soon, they start pulling away. They avoid your advice. They resist your support. They begin to feel suffocated. And then what happens? You feel rejected, unappreciated, confused. You say things like, "After everything I've done for them." But deep down, you're not angry because they failed to change. You're angry because you tied your worth to their transformation. This is the dark side of being a fixer. You enter with love, but often leave with bitterness. You pour yourself into people, only to feel empty when they don't become who you hoped they would. And all the while, your own growth, your own dreams, your own emotional needs are left neglected. So what's the alternative? Do we stop caring? Do we close our hearts? No, but we learn to shift our role. You are not here to carry other people. You are here to walk beside them, to support, not to control, to love, not to save, to witness their journey, not direct it. You are not a failure if someone doesn't heal. You are not weak if you set boundaries. You are not selfish for choosing your peace over someone else's chaos. In fact, choosing yourself might be the bravest thing you've ever done. So if you've lived your life trying to fix, rescue, or save others, let this be your wake-up call. You don't have to keep doing this. You can unlearn the pattern. You can let go of the weight. You can love people fully without losing yourself in the process. Because the greatest healing doesn't come from fixing others. It comes from finally choosing to fix what's been hurting inside of you. Letting go of the fixer identity. If you've been listening closely, you might be feeling something right now, a stirring inside. Maybe a quiet recognition that being a fixer has cost you more than you realized. Maybe a hope that there's another way. And if that's true, then this is the most important part of the journey: learning to let go. Letting go of the fixer identity is not easy. It's not a switch you flip overnight. It's a process of unlearning old habits, healing deep wounds, and redefining your sense of self-worth. But it's also the key to freedom, the key to healthier relationships, the key to genuine peace. So how do you begin? First, start with awareness. Simply noticing when you're slipping into the fixer role is powerful. When you feel that urge to jump in and solve someone else's problem, pause. Ask yourself, am I really needed here? Or am I just afraid to step back? Is this person asking for my help? Or am I imposing it? Am I trying to control this situation because I'm uncomfortable with uncertainty? Awareness creates space for choice. It interrupts the automatic pattern of fixing and opens the door to something new. Second, practice setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They're bridges to healthier relationships and better self-care. Saying no doesn't make you unkind or uncaring. It makes you human. It means you recognize your limits and honor your needs. For example, if a friend repeatedly shares their problems but never listens to your feelings, it's okay to say, "I care about you, but I also need to protect my energy right now." Or if you find yourself endlessly trying to change a partner's destructive habits, remind yourself, I can support you, but I can't live your life for you. Boundaries are the foundation of respect, both for yourself and others. Third, shift from fixing to supporting. Supporting means standing beside someone without trying to lead or rescue them. It means listening without judgment, offering empathy instead of advice, and trusting in their ability to find their own way. This might feel uncomfortable at first. You might worry that stepping back means you don't care. But true support is often silent and patient. It respects the other person's autonomy and timing. Fourth, focus on self-healing. The fixer's heart often carries wounds from the past. Wounds of feeling unworthy, invisible, or only valuable when helping others. Healing these wounds is crucial to breaking free from the fixer role. Self-healing can take many forms: therapy, meditation, journaling, creative expression, or simply spending time alone to reconnect with yourself. It's about learning to love and value you, not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are. Fifth, cultivate self-compassion. You might have spent years believing you must fix others to be worthy of love. Let that belief go. Treat yourself with the same kindness you've tried to give others. Celebrate your efforts, forgive your mistakes, and embrace your imperfections. Remember, you are already enough. Finally, surround yourself with healthy relationships. Seek connections where you are seen, heard, and valued, not just for what you can do, but for who you are. Relationships where support flows both ways, and where you can be vulnerable without fear of judgment or rejection. Letting go of the fixer identity is a gift to yourself and to those you love. It frees you from exhausting cycles of control and disappointment. It opens space for genuine connection and growth. It invites you to live fully and authentically. So today, I challenge you. Are you ready to stop fixing and start healing? Are you ready to set down the heavy burden of responsibility for others' lives? Are you ready to love without control, to support without sacrifice, and to live without losing yourself? Because the truth is, you don't have to be a fixer to be loving. You don't have to save others to be worthy. You don't have to lose yourself to be loved. You are enough, just as you are. Embracing a new way forward. As we come to the final part of this journey, I want you to take a moment and reflect on everything we've explored about being a fixer. The deep desire to help, the unseen costs, the pain of losing yourself, and the courageous steps needed to let go. But what comes next? How do you move forward once you begin to release the fixer role? How do you build a life that's sustainable, loving, and authentic? The answer lies in embracing a new way forward, one grounded in balance, respect, and true connection. First, embrace your own humanity. You are not a superhero. You are not a miracle worker. You are a human being with strengths and flaws, hopes and fears. Accepting this truth is liberating. It means you no longer have to carry impossible expectations, yours or others. It means you can allow yourself to be imperfect, vulnerable, and enough. Second, prioritize your own growth. The fixer's energy is often so focused outward, it leaves little room to grow inward. But your own evolution matters. It's the foundation for every healthy relationship you want to build. Take time for your passions, your dreams, your healing. Cultivate habits that nourish your mind, body, and spirit. When you do, you become a beacon, not because you fix others, but because you inspire by simply being whole. Third, practice radical acceptance, for yourself and for others. Radical acceptance means acknowledging reality as it is, without trying to change it or force it to be different. It means recognizing that people have their own paths, struggles, and timing. You can't control or fix them, no matter how much you wish you could, but you can love them from where they are. And by doing so, you release yourself from frustration, resentment, and disappointment. Fourth, cultivate deep empathy with clear boundaries. Empathy is powerful. It connects us on a human level. But without boundaries, empathy can drain us. So learn to say yes to compassion and no to overwhelm. Know when to step in and when to step back. Remember, setting boundaries is not a rejection of love, but an expression of it, both for yourself and for others. Fifth, build community with others who understand. You don't have to walk this path alone. Find people who support your growth, respect your boundaries, and encourage your authenticity. Whether it's friends, mentors, support groups, or therapists, Connection with those who get it will sustain you. And finally, celebrate every step forward. Letting go of the fixer identity is a profound transformation. It won't be perfect or linear. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and old patterns tempting you back. But every time you choose your well-being over control, every time you choose love over obligation, every time you honor yourself, celebrate it. Because this is your power. This is your freedom. So, to those of you who have identified as fixers, who have carried burdens not meant for you, and who are ready to step into a new way of being, know this. You are not alone. You are more than your role as a fixer. You are worthy of love, not because you fix, but because you are. And as you move forward, remember, the most beautiful love you can give others begins with the love you give yourself. Thank you for allowing me to share this journey with you today. May you find the courage to let go, the grace to heal, and the freedom to live fully.